Welcome to the Growth Execution Podcast. We are here every week with a business leader here to help you launch, build, and grow your business. Delighted to be joined this week by Austin McCulloh Advisory. Hey, how you doing?
Mal, I'm excited to get into this talk. We're going to have a good one today.
Looking forward to it very much also. But first of all, one thing we really love to know is, it's the big one, it's why. Why are you doing this, Austin?
So, at the real core, I work with a lot of financial representatives, but at the core of what I do, it's because a lot of people live lives doing what they don't want to do, right? So I know you don't live here in the United States, Mal, but here in the United States, you take a big city like Chicago. I don't live in Chicago, but I know a lot of people who live there. And many of them, they go into work at They get ready for the day at 6 o'clock. They go into work, they're traveling a couple of hours, they're working the entire day, then they get back. How much time do they have to spend with their family? At least on the weekdays, right? Maybe 1-2 hours. That's not living. And so I like to help people get to where they want to be so that they can make the income so that they're not locked into a job that they don't want to work, right?
So essentially you're kind of, you're encouraging a better life, right? That this is what essentially Austin is here to do.
Right. At the core.
Love that. And have you noticed, obviously we've been through quite a lot of traumatic pandemic stuff going on over the last couple of years. Have you noticed that people are making different decisions about that commute to Chicago and how to balance that life stuff up?
Yes, fortunately enough, I've seen a lot of people working more remotely. So like even if you talk about my business model, which is helping people do prospecting on LinkedIn, do outreach to bring in new clients, new recruits, etc. The nice part about that, all of it is done online. So if you bring that back to in terms of working, a lot of people think that you have to go in person to work, but you don't really have to. I mean, I can't even remember the last time I had an in-person meeting, and that's the way I like it. It's nice to see people in person. It's a different energy, right? And we both know that. But when you don't have to waste hours commuting per week or 10s, 20s of hours, then it just frees up a lot of time so you can do other stuff that you want to be doing.
For sure. And one of those things very particularly is prospecting and starting to drive those leads through. Now, I know there'll be a lot of people listening in who are really keen to understand, a bit more about how to do that successfully. What are your sort of top tips for really getting people in front of the audience?
So the first thing that always comes to mind whenever somebody asks me that question, you need to ask open-ended questions to your target market. A lot of people ask questions that require a yes or no, so a closed-ended question. And the problem with that is then you're not getting your prospects talking. So too many people in a sales capacity, and you know this, they want to push what they have to offer rather than just simply listening to what the other person wants. So for example, I work with a lot of financial reps, many of whom can get clients and they can get recruits to build their own team, right? So they might reach out with that option because they think, this opportunity is for any person because they can do both things, but that's not the case. The situation is you ask them the open-ended questions to figure out what they want because they're just going to tell you right there. And so obviously, if you have more questions, continue to ask me on that. But I won't talk for too long just so the listeners don't have to be bored there.
Listen, no, you are. What I think a lot of people are really, really looking or thinking about hard is over here, particularly, we've had a lot of a real burst of startups. Okay, so over lockdown, something like 20% more businesses have been launched than were launched the year before. So there is so many people who are, at the very kind of dawn of their businesses, and many of them will be really successful, but others will perhaps find it a little bit more difficult in the early stages. So I think that the sort of a sales process is a really strong sort of thing for people to be thinking about. And as you say, it's about that listening thing, isn't it? It's about making sure that your product is going to fit its market as a result.
And that's actually a good point. You're right. It's about listening, but then it's actually about the product. I know one thing that you like asking is, what's the most important, the product, the marketing, or the sales? Yeah. And I got thinking about that a little bit. And I think the marketing is, because in particular, when you take the product, you can have a great product, but if nobody knows about it, who's going to buy it, right?
Yeah.
You can have a great sales process, but if your product sucks, nobody wants it. And sorry, I'm getting confused here, but the point is, and you could have so if nobody's finding out about the product, nobody's going to buy it. You have great marketing, but the product sucks, nobody wants it. You have great sales, but you have a bad product, nobody wants it. So it's really interesting to see that at its core. I know I'm getting off topic here, but essentially the point is too many people focus too much on their own product what they
Yes.
have to offer. That's what I used to do a bunch. I'm trying to grow and train myself out of that mindset because I mean, at the core, and I know this sucks for a lot of people to hear, nobody really cares about your business. They care about what you're doing for them.
Absolutely right, and it's this feature versus benefit, isn't it? If people can understand it, and you are essentially selling kind of dreams, right? You're enabling people to fulfill the best version of themselves. What that means to one person is going to be very different to another, but the route to that is through the LinkedIn leads and through being able to find that methodology, and that is really where kind of your business is at its heart, right?
Right. 100%.
Yeah. So and this I think is something that a lot of entrepreneurs really kind of need to focus on is this benefit side. Whatever you're doing, almost don't forget about it, but remember that what the person at the other end wants to hear is what it's going to do for them, not what it does.
And that's a really good point. Actually, I'm going to give can I give a firsthand example?
Please, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So like I said, I work with a lot of financial reps in particular, financial reps, financial advisors. The difference is the reason why I say financial reps, not all have securities licenses. So here in the United States, they can't say legally that they're a financial advisor if they're not yet, right?
Yeah.
So with that, in terms of my marketing, I used to always say, you should work with us because we can help you bring in more clients. But one of the firms that we work with is called Primerica. In Primerica, you don't just build a client base, you can also build your own team. So recruiting is very key. So if I'm always talking about clients, that makes it seem like I can't help on the recruiting side as well. When really, as long as I know who your target audience is and you can find them on LinkedIn, there's a way to search for them. There's ways that we can automate your outreach. There are ways that we can get responses and conversations started. And so I did a poor job of marketing myself and marketing our business because I was not speaking specifically enough to the jargon that our advisors, our prospects were using.
Yeah, absolutely right. And that audience, like you say, the jargon, the sort of the language that they use around their challenges and their problems is really important. The podcast we did last week was very much around this idea that is it for fatigued women or exhausted women? And what you have to do is some women won't self-identify as fatigued.
Yeah.
If you say exhausted, they're like, yeah, got that. Absolutely. That's us. So it's so important to have listened to how they self-identify, really.
I know, and that blows my mind because it's so nitty gritty and you don't want to get stuck in the details because sometimes that slows people down.
Absolutely.
But you want to pay attention to the details because that's what cleans up your process. So it's kind of like a teeter-totter.
Yeah, that's right. And then, I think particularly as you iterate towards product market fit and you're getting your product towards, the market, as you say, it's got to be listened to. You have to know that product is solving a problem and it's got enough of an audience that it's going to be profitable in the end. But actually getting there, that feedback loop of putting it out to the audience, then coming back and saying, I like that, but I don't really like that. It's a real kind of gentle one, isn't it? And a real delicate
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
What do you think is it kind of, when you think about businesses that are starting up and perhaps there's more successful ones that you've seen, what are the sort of key attributes that you generally identify in either the entrepreneur or the business?
They're driven, not motivated. You're familiar with the difference between the two, right?
Yeah, but let's articulate it.
Okay. So this was years ago, and I was applying for a job. I think it was like 4 years ago. And it asked you, it said, out of all these attributes, and it listed about 35 or 40, you could only pick 3. So I got really stuck because I saw motivated and driven. I was like, what's the difference between the two? I looked it up. Motivation is the beginning. That's what gets you started, but drive and discipline are what keep you going. There are way too many people. I mean, it looks ironic because if you go to my Instagram today, we're recording this on December 7th. If you go to my Instagram, I was posting some quotes, but the problem is a lot of people just post the quotes. They don't do the work behind it. They'll post a quote, don't be afraid to ask or something like that. Yeah. And then they'll be afraid to ask later on in their day. I mean, I made a call to one of my prospects earlier today. I really didn't want to make it, but I did it anyways, because that's what pushes the business forward. So first things first, motivation is good, but focus more on drive because you want to be consistent over time. And I would say another thing is, too many try to do it alone. As we were actually joking about before we started recording the call, I actually hate the fact that my business is called Austin McCulloh Advising because it's named after me. I have a daily affirmation that I read now, which is our and we instead of me, my. You get what I'm saying? So not my business, not my team, not my clients, our team, our business, our clients. And that's because I have 4 people working for me now. And so we literally have a team. And so it's just so important to do that, because then I'm not doing everything, and then I can delegate tasks so we can scale the business quicker, which is what a lot of entrepreneurs want to do.
For sure, absolutely. And again, as we were talking earlier, right, it's one of those things you'll get around to. It's just fiddly, isn't it, to change those names? And anybody listening out there who hasn't chosen a name yet, try and steer clear of your own name, right? Because that does lock you into it in terms of scale.
I guess it depends. Like, if you ever want to sell your business one day, obviously don't name it after yourself, because somebody buying it probably won't want to buy a personality business. So it's like, always keep the end result in mind. Yeah.
And that comes back to your driven versus motivation, right? Motivation will get you somewhere, but drive is when you're driving to somewhere. You've got an end goal in mind, and that is the thing that you lock onto, and it gets you making those phone calls when you're just kind of thinking, I don't want to speak to this person because over there 100%. Lies my destination.
100%.
Brilliant, Austin. Listen, such good insights, and really, really enjoying the conversation. I wonder if we can just throw some quick fire questions at you, as we love to do along the way. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
There are a lot, but what's coming to me right now is success is not easy, but it's often very simple. I mean, let's talk about sales right there with growing a business. We know that we need to contact prospects in order to close business. That's very simple, but it's not always easy, especially when you're new into sales and you have the insecurity, you don't have the confidence that you need. And so that's something that I like to keep in mind a lot of the time, is because I'll think that something is very complex when we break it down, it really isn't. Like, even if you think about, I need to contact 100 prospects a day, I don't, thankfully. But even if I did need to, you start with 1, which is very simple. Then you go 2, then you go 3. And when you do the first one, it's obviously the hardest, but once you get that out of the way, everything gets easier. But that's what I would leave everybody with is, I mean, a lot of success is just super, super simple. It's just not easy.
I love that. And it's so true. And one of the things we talk about a lot is sales activity. It's all the plans in all the world, and you can get really kind of crazy into it, but you just got to get on and do it. Make the goddamn calls. And that's the real kind of key to it. As you say, so simple, so straightforward, but so important. What or who do you think is perhaps an inspiration for you?
That's an easy answer. And one thing I want to say really quick before I answer, I really like your background, by the way. I wanted to give props to that. I know a lot of the time, like when there's any content creation, we like when people acknowledge it. So I want to say a very good background right there. For any of the listeners, go watch the actual video so you can see this. Looks really cool. If you're into science, you're going to see the overlap there. I'll leave it at that. But anyways, in terms of inspiration, so I'm almost 25 years old, and I really look up to a guy named Devin Johnson. Devin is 25, so he's my age. He does very, very well. Like, I'm doing well in my career, but he does even exponentially better. And he is the founder and CEO of the software that I license for my clients. Okay. He's taught me a lot. And honestly, what he's done is, you see a lot of people who do very well in their career who are in their 30s or 40s or 50s or 60s, right? So they're older than I am. But seeing somebody who's my age, who is doing extraordinary things, boosts my level of belief. So I really look up to him. Yeah,
that's really good. And you're absolutely right. There's almost that peer, it's not quite pressure, but it's just, it's encouragement, isn't it? It's just being able to see somebody succeeding at your level.
It makes it more real.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. If you were to go back to when you first started out, so let's say, 5-6 years ago, what do you wish you had known then that you know now?
You can trust people who work overseas, right? So I didn't hire everybody until this year. And one of my favorite hires ever, because I had a hiring agency before. I've hired probably 40 people at this point. But one of my favorite hires is my virtual assistant. His name is SK, right? Mm-hmm. He's now our operations manager, but that's how he started off, was as a VA. And I was nervous. I was nervous with working with somebody overseas, but he's super bright. He's one of the most caring people I know. And it's elevated my business. And as we've gotten more people onto the team, it's just helped a ton. So doing everything on your own is just not the right approach. It's good for experience, but once you feel the tension of, okay, it's time to move on to the next thing, take that chance, take that risk and go hire somebody. If it doesn't work out, you can fire them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's such good advice. And here as well, we've got many great people. It's Sarah, who's our VA, started out as our VA, now head of production, who'll be putting this together. Hi, Sarah. Again, just really, really impressive and super, such a super hire for us here as well. So yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really great shout, and thank you. Listen, Austin, there will be many people listening who will really want to hear and to find out more about you and your business. Where should they go?
Go to our website, www.McCullohAdvising.com, and that's MCCULLOH. There you can get free resources. You can jump on a call with me. You can opt into our newsletter, which is more sales and marketing oriented. And obviously, if you have any questions, just shoot me an email.
Wonderful, Austin. Listen, you've been such a great guest. Really, really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mal. Appreciate you.
Really great. Listen, that's all we've got time for, sadly, this week. Thank you all for listening in. And we'll be back next week with another great guest who will be helping you to launch, build, and grow your business. Until then, have a great growth week, and we'll see you in 7 days. All the very best. Take care. Bye-bye.